Sensitivity is intelligence. With grace and skill, you have abundance. Welcome to the Psychic Hour. Host Kelly Brickel is a psychic medium healer, numerologist, and teacher. Her passions are learning about the soul and energy. Whether it's through spirit, emotion, or vibrational numbers, there's always a pathway of information waiting to help. Now, here is your host of the Psychic Hour, Kelly Brickel.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Psychic Hour on WLTK-DB. Let's Talk Radio. I'm Kelly Brickel, and this is the reading show where we focus on all topics, psychic, mediumship, healing, and my phone wants to drop. That's always fun. It's very slippery. My phone is very slippery. The case got all messed up, and so I took it off, and it's very functional without a case. Of course, it's like, security hazard, you could argue, but it wants to slip everywhere. So, but, without distractions getting the best of us, this is a place for spiritual talk and support, as well as fun with the readings. I always like to give back with the readings, and it's just purely wherever I feel drawn, whether it's numerology, cards, or just psychic with seeing and feeling and hearing. And that's how we do it. So the topic of the day, that is going to be about consistency. Consistency, it's a beautiful thing. And it's so fun because we as humans, we're made to grow. We're made to change. We're made to shift and blossom in ways that consistency breeds, but doesn't solely maintain within that vibration of consistency on certain levels. But we are creatures of habit too. So it's always this interesting, how do we breed this? How do we function? What is the true nature? But really, we are made to change and grow. But for anyone who has built up an increased vibration or mastery, right? Like think about your favorite singers, artists, athletes, leaders, whatever you can think of, people that you honor and respect for the way that they act and then the way that they run their lives. They have built up consistent energy. They have operated in a certain consistency where they have skill, where they have talent, where they have that mastery. Hello, Kevin. Good afternoon. And in order to breed that vibration, we're using the word breed a lot. Ooh. They have to have maintained that vibration for a while. Like sometimes we come into the world of talents and people go, okay, well, you were like this maybe in a past life. And, that's why it was so easy to pick up. And that is a possibility. Or, for the people who had to develop things, they put their time and their resources into it. Whether it was a passion or whether it wasn't a passion, sometimes we become really good at things we never really wanted to do. It's just we had to do them, or they helped us along the way, right? With consistency, I do think that a lot of things are possible. And that's why it is so meaningful within spirituality, because it's like, do you have consistent values? Do you have consistent ideals? Do you have consistent practices, right? And all of these things are important because we must continue to go forward. When we do things like getting a certification in a skill like Reiki, or maybe like a psychic or medium certification, it's not like, okay, I did it, Now, how do I feel about myself? It's okay, I did this part of how I'm heading. I did that part of what I wanted to try. And it's never ending. And sometimes when we get our certificate or we reach a milestone, we go, "Whew, okay, well, I did it. Okay, I did it." But we have to keep going. We have to keep going. And so in what ways are you consistent? In what ways do you feel like you have mastery? In what ways do you feel like you're struggling or inconsistent? In what ways Do you feel like it's all mixed up? Because it's going to tell you a lot about your energy. Like, where do we have overconfidence? Where do we have centered confidence? Where do we feel like depleted or we have lack of confidence? And I do think that whatever area that feels congruent in our heart, because sometimes we do things and we really don't want to do them on certain levels. It just looks like we should be doing it, or we tell ourselves we should be doing it. But if we really are at a place in our lives where it is congruent with our soul, if we practice, if we are consistent, wonderful things are possible. Wonderful things are possible. I really truly believe that if anyone practices mediumship consistently, no matter what point you're at, you will be able to be a medium. If you feel like you're not naturally are one, or if you feel like you are having difficulties, and not everyone thinks that can be taught. I do. It's consistency. You know, mediumship and psychic work to me is just being connected to your soul or other souls. You have a soul, why couldn't you talk with other souls? It's energy, your energy. Why can't you communicate with other energy? And maybe it might be really hard to conceptualize that. Maybe it might be hard to, use your senses in a way that you've never used, and to really step back from your preconceived notions and do something you've never done before. But if you actually want to be there, and if actually you want to do it, I do feel like it's possible for everybody with consistency. So imagine the things that we are good at. Imagine the things that we're really excited about. Maybe we're fearful. Maybe we stop ourselves. Maybe we stress ourselves out doing it and we stop. I know there are things within my life where I have stress, and I go at the end of the day, oh, I could have worked on some of the other things that I really want to do more, or some of the new things I want to do. And I don't find myself doing them because I'm taking on the stress. And, that's being a human. We do our best. But for the things we are so excited about, when we do apply our focus and our action, it can get really exciting, especially if we go again and again and again and again. We can find things because we are living, breathing energy connected to such a divine intelligence spark and network. We can find things that the consistency and the routine of the universe or of earth has not yet, let's say, found the pattern of as easily or at all. um, but if you're constantly in a certain vibration, you're going to see things that no one else can see. If you have devotion to a vibration, your people have rarely come across, or have come across at all. Like, we have infinite potential. There's infinite possibilities. There's so much that has yet to be experienced, and everyone's so uniquely different and looks at the world in such a different way. So with some consistency and heart, greatness is possible for everybody. I do feel that. I do feel it so truly. I was inspired to talk about like spiritual business today. I know I'm jumping around, but you got to kind of just go where you feel. And I was really inspired because there's a lot of people who want to start a spiritual business, or let's say they want to put their services out there. Maybe they're not so curious about curating the actual business yet. They just want to be more in service. And in any of those questionings, it does come back to consistency. It does. It's like whether you're a full-fledged business or whether you're just offering a service. Hello, Stephanie. Hello, Nita. Hello, Courtney. Hello. There has to be a consistency of identity, or a consistency of offering, where you're just like, okay, I'm here and people know me as. And it's not because you're trying to create persona. It's you're just trying to be visible so people know to find you if they need help. Like, you have something you're offering. You have to be seen. And also, if you do it enough, you come across so many different personalities and situations, whether good or bad. It helps you to navigate things with ease. And that really helps with your reliability with how you're able to perform your service. So you have to just try and put yourself out there, whether it's easy or hard or you crash and burn. If you allow yourself to do those things, you're going to figure it out, and life is going to teach you. You have to. You have to. Um, and it will go much faster that way. Now, there's not one size that fits all, but certain things to make you feel more confident, certain things to make you more successful, or certain things to help you connect it to the people that are really looking for you. Those are the things that will come to you when you put yourself out there with consistency. And there's so many things to really consider. It's not just a skill thing sometimes. Sometimes it's developing your personality. Sometimes it's developing your approach. Sometimes it's developing again that identity or that visibility, which is much different than the concept of personality. Some people are afraid to be seen, or some people don't want the recognition and they just want to work, but then they can't work without people finding them. So it's like sometimes we just want simple things, but we find that we are blocking certain things or making other things difficult when we really are not trying to. And that impacts us on a personal or a business level. You never know until you start going, why isn't it working? Or, wow, this is working really well. I wonder why. The more people look at why things aren't working than if they are working. If they are working, isn't that funny? If I don't want to say this as a blanket statement, but when your life is going really, really well, like let's say you're making a lot of money, you're in a great relationship, you have great friends, you have great family, you have great health, maybe have abundance in money. You're not necessarily going to look at the reasons why you have those things unless you had the depletion of those things before you got there. You're just gonna like, oh, I have them. Oh, yeah, I guess, you know, I was born into it, or, I've just always had luck in this department. And when you have it, you don't want it necessarily. You can be grateful for it. But when you have it, unless there's immense gratitude and awareness, not everybody um, is fixated on that, because when you have something, you innately want it to as well. It's just the have is in place so you're not longing. So it's not like even a selfish concept. It's not even an oblivious conflict. It's just when you have it, you cease the wanting because you're at peace with the having. And that could be like from the wisest sage or from the youngest child having something. But when there's the lack of having, it's cultivating, why do I really want this? And to have it, you actually always have to be in the vibration of have rather than the want, because the want means I'm longing, the want means I don't have it, the want means I'm craving it, the want means my energy and my vibration is depleted, the want means I have yet to receive. But the having, whether you actually have it or you are trying to pull it to you, that's where, the vibration is, that's what you have to match. And if you have consistency in the vision of having or the doing of having, even if it's not 100%, that's how things come. They really, really, truly come. So may we all be consistent with how we are creating and just being really honest with ourselves. I think that's the biggest thing. It's just like, be honest with yourself. Is it really difficult for you to have something? Is it really difficult for you to have consistency in something that you're doing that is keeping you from that? Or if you feel like you are doing things but you can never have it, then there's some type of lack of consistency in some type of energy. And what is that? Be honest with yourself. What is that? Because if you're like, well, I always have a problem with this, well, then you have a problem rather than you have it. it's all tied back to some really interesting concepts. It can be very, believe me, we're all human. The things that I don't have in my life, it's not for, you know, I don't look at it within other people or myself like, oh, it's just, a thought pattern always. Yes, I do actually, but I don't look at it purely as that because I understand all the intricate layers and what things, we're going through all on an individual basis, but I always try to neutralize it. If there's a problem at hand, I really try to neutralize it, especially if it's just concerning myself. If it's with other people, it's a little bit more complicated, sure. But when you're not tied to other people and you're bringing other people into your life, so if you're not tied to the relationship, so if you're single, or with a business, if you're not tied to a business partner or a project, you still have tremendous amounts of power of who you can attract to you. You get to call the shots of who you and what you are attracting to you because you're the only one manifesting that. And if someone comes to you with something that you manifested, because, sometimes we go, oh, I got to tweak my manifestation. I didn't realize I brought this in even though I exactly asked for that. I got to change things up. You can say no, boundaries. You can be like, sorry, it's not fitting the bill. Let's go back to the drawing board. But if you do have someone in your life and things are not lining up, then yeah, it is an active co-creation process. And sometimes two people are not in the same, most people, no one's in the same place 100%. But sometimes people are leagues apart with what their needs are, you know? Sometimes it's just a mixture and it still is ever so confusing. So it's it's always a blessing if you have a clean slate, and it's always a blessing if you do have someone you love in your life. And so there's many different ways to manifest, many different blessings, many different ways. No one way makes it come forward, but whatever you're doing within your life, if you're hitting something with consistency, rather with yourself, because you're a direct reflection of yourself, or whether with your partner, with the consistency that you're met with a confusion or repelling or happiness or openness. It lets you know about what the energy is present, and you should become, one who has a relationship with the energy that's present around you. The energy streams that you let in, and the energy streams that you are cultivating and co-creating. You should know what energy is around you, like and you should treat them like friends. And that's where like guide work comes in, yes, but like with life force energy, you should know what's around you, and you're not gonna necessarily have a relationship purely as a friend, but you should know it like it was a friend. That's what I'm trying to say, if that makes sense. Okay. Hello, everybody coming in. Hello, Jennifer. Hello, Delek. Hello. So we're gonna go into readings in just a moment. If you have questions, pop them down. If you have your numbers, please pop them down, and we will go in and start pulling some numbers and cards and have fun. Away we go. Okay. I know there's people saying that they want a reading, and so I'll give you a general reading too if you say you want a reading, like I'll pull a card or something like that. So I do see people asking for general readings. Okay. All right. So let's start. I always drink some liquid before I take off. Gotta love the coconut water. Tea, coconut water helps life. All right, we'll start with Delic. Got 319. Okay. Personal day 1, attitude 4, and life path 4 as well. And you are in a cycle of 2. Okay. So when someone's in a cycle of 2, so that's like your yearly cycle. Every year we have a cycle that changes, and this is our personal cycle. So there's many different cycles in numerology, but this is our personal yearly cycle, and yours is a 2. And we're forced to kind of meet certain themes every cycle to make sure we are growing on our path. So every cycle has vastly different themes, and a 2 is all about being more in touch with our emotions, going back to our heart, letting ourselves open up. And it's almost like the universe cracks us open in our memories, crack us open, or we'll feel things just way stronger, and it will be a more emotional year. And and that is usually beautiful because it helps us enact so much healing, but it can feel kind of rocky. We find ourselves being a little bit more angry and sad. We can swing where we have greater amounts of joy too, but it is a year where we are constantly in positions where, yes, we go, okay, I'm forced to go deeper. um the nice thing about it is you have a lot of 4s in your chart as well as the 2, so it makes it kind of a less rockier year. So depending on people's charts, and that's why, this is just a snippet of numerology, but depending on people's charts, certain years are very difficult and other years are very easy depending on their numbers. And you have a lot of balancing numbers that it's natural for you to assess your emotions. It's natural for you to want to develop and grow and to sit with things. So this has been, I would imagine, like a quite spiritual year with that, even though you're still kind of navigating at the same time. With your attitude 4, it makes you want to be very like meticulous at times, and you're very good with like lists and planning, and you like planning. That's the whole thing. For attitude 4s like planning. It makes life easy. Other numbers are like, I don't need all the planning. It's restrictive. But with a 4, it really helps you to be the best version of you, and it's how you can calm down your brain and how you can do well. And it's very, very, yeah, you wouldn't like spontaneous. I'd have to look at more of your numbers, but correct. You have 2 4s in very influential placements. And so your life path 4 and your attitude 4. And so that means you got double 4 energy, and that is the love of routine, and wanting to do your best from research, wanting to do your best from the knowledge that you have. And you're like a sponge. You love to absorb things, and you're the type of person that can rattle off, if you want to, you can rattle off like random facts. You'll tell people, hey, this is what I read. I just came across this. And people at times will be like, how do you know this? Or where did you come across this? And you catch people off guard with the things that you know, because to them it's spontaneous, like that came out of left field. But for you, you're just grabbing things in a very consistent fashion, and you're like, why wouldn't I? I mean, it's amazing. It's like it's helpful knowledge. Why wouldn't I know this? Um, and it's great like that. So it's funny that I talked about the energy of consistency, because that is the power of the life path for consistency. People who don't have distractions within their lives. If they have 4 energy, they are very hard workers, they are very consistent, and on average, they have more success than the other numbers at times, as long as they avoid distractions, because they are just like, it's like, there's the hare, the story of the tortoise and the hare. So the 4 is the tortoise. It's just like deliberate. It's not pure just slowness, but it's just very deliberate, consistent. I get things done, on to the next, on to the next. And so very reliable people, very hardworking people. And as long as you know what you want, Dealic, really you can just go and get it. And so you mentioned your perfectionism, and that is something that comes up in the 4. It is perfectionism comes out in 4 and 8 energy a lot. And as long as you make peace with things not showing up as expected, with the world around you, with the people around you, and you take a nice deep breath and go, all right, maybe the universe can do better than I ever planned, you'll be quite successful. As long as you don't let things derail you and you just keep chugging along, you'll be quite successful because your input is unrelenting. And a lot of people can't keep up with that consistent input like you can. So, honestly, pick whatever you want to do, or pick more than one thing that you want to do, and just go get it. And you will probably be, at the end of the day, more skilled than your average person. So don't let the initial, I have a gap between my aptitude and this other person, or don't let the initial intimidation catch you off balance, or the initial analysis of, wow, that's going to take forever to do. I should have started that 2 years ago. What am I thinking? Don't let that defeat you. As long as you show up, you can get it done and be um, as skillful and as productive and as masterful as the person you're idealizing. Okay, so it's very, very, very important. Yeah. So next year you're going to be in a cycle 3, and this is important because when we get into the 3 vibration within our cycles, we have a chance to shake up our lives in a way that's beneficial for us to grow and open up. So next year is so that's just like 4 months away. Isn't that crazy? In 4 months, we're into next year's energy already. In 4 months' time, you'll start to have the invitation to network more, socialize more. You'll find yourselves you'll find yourself making friends or making acquaintances where you can actually start to have different opportunities, because they're like, oh, I know Delik, and I also know this person, and they would be on the same wavelength. Let me introduce this person to that person, and doors open and doors open. So really allow yourself, next year especially, to put yourself in situations that are out of your comfort zone. It will go very well. 3 is a very lighthearted number. It's a lucky number in social situations. As long as you let go of restrictions for yourself and you put yourself out there with other people and try new things. And again, it's like that social networking more so. Finding new groups, finding new opportunities through taking risks, things will go really well. And it usually, whether it's that year or the next year following, helps enact career shifts, or it helps enact like new relationship energy. Okay, because new people and streams and opportunity are not just cultivated, but they're self-actualized. So very, very good year of opening up new energy. The healing phase has already started. It's going to be a lot busier next year, so just heads up. Okay, cool, cool. I'm glad I'm emerging for that already. Good, good. You're on you're on schedule. You're on schedule. Exactly. Emerging for that already. Exactly. Yes, I'm looking for that. I'm ready to take off with my spaceship. Yeah. You're good to go. Let's see. Oh, okay. It would make sense you're emerging in that because you are, let me make sure this is right. Yep, that's right. Mhm. I just make sure my brain's working correctly with all the different calculations before I say things sometimes. Um, okay, you're in a cycle 2. Yeah. Okay. So, can you understand that you had kind of like a resurgence of, like, okay, I'm going for it, and yeah, like, things are coming to me. You had a resurgence of that, like, in the past 2 months. It's kind of like taking a new a fire, and things were quite busy last month where you had your sights set, but it wasn't like you could quite get to it yet. And like this month, you're like, okay, not only do I feel it and I'm going this direction, but I find that I can wrap my head around certain things again and I'm back on course. So it's like this month has been really good for your motivation of you getting to where you go and what your wants and dreams are. You've been like cultivating that and getting your vision straight again. And you feel like you could this month. Um, Next month, just heads up, you're going to be in a double two energy next month. You're going to be in the cycle of two and you're going to be in a month of two as well. And so you're going to find that it's going to be much, much, very thick, much more thick in the emotion again. What I said earlier with like, oh, yeah, yeah, you're swinging, different ways and you're learning about self healing, it's going to come out very strongly. So, in order to facilitate the intensity and thickness of the emotions as it downpours, and it could be really, really good, but it's going to swing all different directions. I'm letting you know that. Like really see a healer during that time, or journal. It's important to have someone in our corner that's outside of ourselves. We need to get these emotions outside of ourselves. So the journaling is important, but I'm always like, hey, therapy, a healer, get a reading around that time. But make sure it's not where someone's just telling you about yourself. It's like you got to process some of it. Okay, you got to process some of it. So make sure you have it on recording and you can look it over later. It's very, very important to process, not just experience with the two energy. Okay, yes, you'll get the thickness. Yeah, so heads up, it's coming. It's coming next month. But you're really on schedule for everything. It would make sense. And just keep going. I do think, oh, we're in September. October is another great month. October and November are great months for you. It's going to make you slide into next year really easy. So October and November, the rocket starts taking off. That you feel like, okay, I have a plan. Okay, and that starts shaping itself. Okay, so there you go. There you go. All right. So I'm going to go for Teresa. 629. Thank you for always your positive energy, Courtney. I really, really appreciate it. Hello, everybody. Um, okay, 629, 1967. All right. Attitude 8, personal day 2, life path 4, I believe. Let me just double check. Yep, that's right. Yep. And then a cycle of 6. Right. And then let's just do the month 2. Cycle 6. Okay. All right. So, Teresa, you are in a cycle of 6. And when someone's in a cycle of 6, it's important to do a review of family and close friendships and feel like and assess how you are being emotionally supported and rewarded by putting yourselves around those people and what decisions you're allowing yourself to do within their presence, whether it's on the phone, in person. How are you being emotionally supported within your life? Because close friendships and family, though, that's the place to do it. That's where you can have like your most intimate connections with the people who support you and offer you guidance and healing, or that you can share, like I said, intimate, like sharing your hopes and dreams or your triumphs or your pitfalls, or that you're not doing well, right? If you don't have that outlet with the people who are supposed to have your back the most, there has to be a reevaluation of how your life is going for you, because there's certain cornerstones within our life that help bolster, that help strengthen how we deal with things, how we deal with stress, how we're able to go forward and not really feel wonky. And that is super, super important. And that gets re looked at this year, and it has to be re-looked at you. You're the only one that can do that. And we don't choose our family necessarily, right? Our blood relatives, or like, let's say, who's been labeled as family for us. We don't get to choose that, but we do get to choose our boundaries with them. We do get to choose how often that we interact with them, and we get to choose in what way. We always have a choice. That's the whole thing. We always have a choice. And it's about this year, I always say, like, it's cutting the fat. It's like, if it doesn't work, you trim it. You trim what does not work, and you make things as nutritious and abundant as you can. Okay? And if you need to find new friends, if you have to have new routines with how you are emotionally supported, that's the way to do it. That's where all the healing happens. It's very, very important because this year always links up to physical health. So if your emotions are, and your sense of self doesn't have flow and ease and expansion, what happens is a lot of that emotional energy gets trapped in the body, and we find ourselves feeling like we're a bit in despair because we don't have proper ways to let things go. We don't have outlets to let things go in a healthy way. And so again, um, I've been talking about therapy a lot. A lot of people have been going through it, around COVID. A lot of people are just so much more emotionally sensitive, which is great because we're evolving as a planet, but we need outlets to make sure that we are processing and letting things go. And when we don't have family to help cultivate that, or there's a lot of misunderstandings. Like, for instance, sometimes we have great family around us, but they just can't show up for us in that way. And it's not about being mad at them, it's just making sure that we have proper outlets, as family loves us the best way they can, and we love family the best way we can for them. It's just not everyone is supposed to be there for all of our needs, and to make peace with that. So sometimes it's very innocent, right? But this is a year where it's like, how's it working for me? How does my home base refuel me? And what changes do I really have to make? It is about not just me, it's about how I love and how people love me back. It's a year about that, like, really having some of the hard questions and considerations with that. Um, but you're the one that ultimately is in control of how you want to be loved and how people love you, because you get to say no or yes. You get to open the door, you get to close the door. You get to, invite new people in. You get to, or strengthen the people that you have in your life and tell them, "Hey, actually I need this." You get to call the shots. Okay, so that is a theme. And she said, okay, she's been working on things all year, and I'm glad you can understand that. You are in a month of 5, so if you can understand, Teresa, it's been a very busy month. You've been juggling a lot. You're in attitude 8, so you tell things like it is, honestly. And so don't be afraid to push the envelope even more. People have to be shooken up every once in a while. So don't be afraid to push the envelope. And the ones that love you are going to stick around. I'm sure you've dealt with this concept before. But as I see your cycle, and as I see the way that you are, don't be afraid to ruffle some feathers. We all need to have a different look every once in a while, a different consideration every once in a while. And sometimes we get smacked across the face with how those things come to us. And we need a special person to do that. So don't be afraid to rough a couple of feathers, definitely. And you are a life path for as well. So the consistency of changing things for the better, just set your sights on some goals and make them happen. As long as you tell yourself it's important, and this is really important, and you keep putting stock in that, things will change, because you have that power of consistency within your life path that you can wield change. And your life path is a force, so you're made to teach people. You're made to be the student on how you to figure out how you can do it, but you're an excellent student. Fours are excellent learners, and once you have the information, then you teach it to other people. You teach it to other people so they can live better. When you know better, you live better. When you know better, you do better, right? And you have the power to bring that to people. So again, ruffle feathers. All right. So Teresa, all right. Oh, someone's asking me some questions. Calming crystals. How did you know that you were a medium? Cool, why not? I like answering questions. How did I know that I was a medium? That's a great question. Well, I had a lot of experiences, but I always kind of rationalized them. I think I think if other people had experiences like me, they would probably like believe they were a medium far sooner than myself. Oh, I've there was times where I saw, people walking in my house, or I saw figures standing in my house. Sometimes as the outline of energy, and I'd just be like, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm crazy, or maybe there's a scientific explanation for this. Or I'd have, dreams about things that would happen the next day sometimes, or I would just know how people were feeling, or I could tell when people were sad. Growing up, I had a lot more psychic experiences than medium experiences, but I still had medium experiences. If I'd lose something, I, I would pray a lot. So I would think it was like, so I do think it's connected to God, absolutely. But I didn't have a concept of what mediumship was. So I used to think like, oh, it's angels and God, or, it's emissaries, helping, and it's connected to um these thoughts within Catholicism or Christianity. I didn't know. And I do believe like all roads lead to the truth. So it's not like I started casting things aside. I just was like, oh, I now understand that this is a thing, rather than just me praying and me trying to second guess everything. So it was difficult for me. It really was. Um but yeah, like if I would lose something, or if I wasn't sure about something, I'd pray about it, and like the answer would just come to me, or all of a sudden I'd find something. Um and it would be like in a just a really weird matter. Like I would find something in the grocery store in the most random aisle, or something would be lost and all of a sudden it would drop right in front of me, or I'd be told, oh, look to the left, or even with helping people, like, oh, look to the left, go to the bottom, go to the right. Like I just, like a compass, I'd be directed places. I was really in tune with the weather, so sometimes I could like predict rain and stuff. So it's all over the map. Okay? It's all over the map. But when you start to understand that you are able to tap into something that seems not the normal convention of how, people guide children to tap into knowledge with, or people guide children in with what is possible as a child and young adult, you start going, okay, let me play around with this, because I do feel like I have an experience or experiences with certain things happening to me as a person that doesn't seem to be normal. What happens when I look into this? And you do question yourself, especially if you don't have like knowledge and resources around you, right? So you can understand where I was coming from. But as I started to read books, and I saw things on TV, like I watched like Sylvia Brown when I was a teenager back in the day on Montel, and that was one of the first that was the first that I can recall depiction of someone who was a psychic medium on television. And when she would talk, I'd be like, oh, I do that stuff. That's a thing. Okay, I don't feel as weird. And so I started reading books, and I would read books about intuition, right? And I'd be like, oh, I already do that. I guess that's a thing, and it just made me feel more and more confident. And so since I started to learn that it was a thing, some of the stories within the book, or some of the exercises you could do to enhance your intuition, since I felt like I was already doing a lot of them just naturally, um I started to go, "Oh, well, this is a part of me. Um, let me lean into this to a greater capacity because this feels very normal. This feels very natural, and this makes me happy on top of it. And I feel like I belong to as well on a certain level. Like, so there was all those things that came together, and that's how I learned as a psychic medium. If that makes sense. Um, yeah, that's a nutshell for you, but that's how I did it, and at first, I would even though I knew I was, I'd overthink it because it didn't matter that it happened in a book or I could relate to people. I actually had to experience it live. Like, I used to before I had people within my life that were, consistent teachers and everything, I would always I used to see auras, not when I was a kid, but when I was a young adult, I would see auras and I'm just like, "This is fantastic," and I'd document it, but I was like, "There's a possibility I might be crazy." So, but now I know I'm not. And during the time when I would see that, other people who had those abilities too would comment on the same things I was seeing. So there was a lot of self doubt. But when I finally had a good teacher, so like Lisa Williams was a great teacher that I had when I was a young adult learning how to become a medium. And we had to give readings for people, and we had to give readings for people in class over many days in the public. And that's what really made me fully accept it because they were testing us and they were told not to be nice to us. You know what I mean? To give truthful feedback. And um, the things that I was saying to people, they're like, yes, that's my life, or I can relate, or we were doing readings with multiple mediums where we had a link in too, and they were seeing the same things that I was. And that really gave me a model where I'm like, my brain isn't just doing stuff that is coincidental. My brain is doing stuff that is verified outside my own experience. And other people can see something very similar or the exact thing that I'm seeing, like color for color, detail, object, to the T, if we're connected as deeply as it's very, very possible to be connected in. And yeah, that blew my mind. And I was just like, okay, well, can't doubt myself, and I just accepted it. Now, I still had feelings of that, that I had to continue to walk the way and then let go. But yeah, when I was able to put myself in class environments for very long periods of time with multiple people, and I saw that it was not just within myself, or I wasn't just lucky because I was in classes before that, but I would just kind of talk myself out of it when I was just shaken in an environment enough where it's like, "No, it's real." That's when I accepted it. But I was so, so careful and so, so passionate about wanting to be there for people for real, and to give people information that I knew my heart, was real. And I was in conflict. I loved the truth, but I was in conflict of eh, I don't know, like, I wanted to know it was real, and there was something where I hadn't received that so powerfully for myself. So when that got blasted open, I had no qualms. But yeah, yeah. And back in the day, I'd hear people's thoughts, so I'd know what they were doing before they would do them. I avoided a lot of friendship situations because of that, because I knew sometimes from my friends' feelings what they thought of me or what they wanted to do or what they thought of my other friends or what their motives were. Sometimes I would hear things like that they would say, and they would either say the exact thing or paraphrase it or do the thing that they said. I didn't get a lot of visuals back in the day. I'm very visual now, but I would get like the feelings and the knowings and occasionally some of the words. Um, I would just all of a sudden be blasted with, "Oh yeah, I think this is going to happen." Um, yeah, I would just have this pull to an energy, and since I was pulled to the energy, it was almost like the energy was giving me information where I could focus on it and experience it. And that's how I experienced a lot of things. So, with my teachers, sometimes I would know things about them if they had, a rough day at home or things like that. And yeah, it's very interesting. So I could go on and on about that. I got into a tangent. Let's take some more readings. Face droopy, red droopy eyes. Oh, is that? I think that yeah, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy calming crystals. It wasn't easy, but we got there. Okay. She says, last night I had a big experience where I felt three people around me. Yes. Write it down so you can associate it before you have another experience. Um, and you can like review if there's consistency. Also, try to feel if you can feel a male or female distinction with each. It's okay if you don't. Just see if you can start to understand some dichotomies like, oh, there one feels really tall, one feels short, one feels very wide, one feels very big, one feels more extroverted, one feels more introverted. Like, what distinctions can you make? Because that's where you're gonna start to understand how you can tune into the details, whether you know they do show you how they look or they do flash you a name. If you can get the dichotomy of things, you can inch your way sometimes to a first letter or a memory, and you're in a ballpark rather than pure guessing. So yes, um, and you get to choose if you want them there. If you don't want them there, and then you just say, "Hey, go go away," or "I would like you know only the spirits." Or only my guides of like the highest love and light to be around me to teach me about what spirit is as I'm starting to understand who's here to support me or who wants to show me a message. I know that I did that when I was learning to be a medium before I had a teacher. I would sit down in my room and I'd feel energy around me and I'd be like, hey, if you're not connected to like love, light, if you're not connected to God, if you're not here to help. And that was just the way I did it. No, you can do it whatever way that makes you feel good or whatever, way that you're connected to in your spirituality. I'm like, I don't I only want the guidance from the way that I feel safe. And so at first I had to feel safe. At first I just had to feel spirit in a certain way. And then when I got comfortable and I felt like spirit had my back in a way where I felt comfortable in, then I just was like, okay, what's out there? And anytime I felt that it just didn't make sense to me, I'd just be like, I'm going back to what I feel safe when I'm first developing. I'm just making sure I feel a little safe. That's it. Okay. So you're always in control. Free will reigns. And if you don't want something to be there, it won't be there. If you're still curious while it's there, it will stay because your curiosity wants to fulfill the energy of why is it here? So sometimes we say we don't want things around, but parts of ourselves do. I want to learn. I want to be curious. I want to know what happened. I want to know why this is happening to me. I want to know what life is about. Okay, all those are wants, even though you say, I don't want it there. Like, please go away. You're freaking me out. So you got to be very clear with your intention of what energies you don't want around and be like, this is an absolute, I don't want you around, or I do want you around if I am spending time and energy with you. So calming crystals, I hope that makes sense. To anyone else working with spirit for the first time, I hope that makes sense. Spirit is very loving, but ultimately they are coming into your energy vibration. They are working with you. You get to call the shots when you are developing. You get to call the shots when you're developing how to work with your energy. Okay. Okay. It's a very serious thing. All right. Let's take some more questions. The chat on the Echo device is so small. I almost missed your comment. The Echo device. What's the Echo device? Okay. Just let me know. Like, if there's an echo, just let me know. Okay. So, Jennifer, all right. Thank you. Jennifer, 5/19/1970. Attitude 6. This is the numerology. Attitude 6. Personal day 1. And life path 5, I believe. Let me just double check. Yep, 5. And then cycle 4. Right? And if you're cycle 4, you're 1, 3. Okay. So you're in a cycle of 4, Jennifer, and this year, when we're in cycles, it's yearly energy that changes for us all the time. So this year, it is all about learning and tending to your house. Okay. The 4 is about what feels like home and how am I going to make things feel at home. You spend the most of your life in your home, unless you are a very, you know, traversing person. That's a different story. But our home is our sanctuary. Our home is our place where we go often to find reprieve. And so in the 4 vibration, it's about, if your home doesn't support you, do we need to get you a new home? Or what do we need to do to change the home so it supports your current identity, your current vibration? Because who we were 10 years ago sometimes doesn't cut it. Who we were 10 years ago is sometimes entirely different with our tastes and our needs. And we have to have what's around us be up to date, or we will be wallowing in the past sometimes, or we'll feel sluggish, or we'll feel off kilter within our house. So, decluttering, reorganizing, renewing, restoring, it's very, very important. Some people just need a completely different, fresh breath of new energy with moving. I don't feel like moving is on your agenda though. I just feel like I need fresh breath of life into my house. I feel like reorganization is key. Um, the 4 invites us to take classes. It could be free. It could be free classes. It could be paid classes. Get as creative as you need to be. But what happens is it invites us to have new learnings into our life, where we then go, yes, I'm starting to become something different. Yeah, you're in a dream home. Okay, cool. Exactly. So you're not going anywhere. Exactly. I didn't feel like you were. You're in your dream home, but our dreams are so important to cultivate, and our dreams are always building of what's next, right? So I do think that there's little tweaks in the house, whether you add more of what's your dream, right? Like we put some pictures up, like in a certain room, that or we put some figurines. Like, I've always envisioned this room to do this. I've always wanted more pops of color. I always wanted to have this within the one of the rooms. Energies around me challenging. Well, you're in your dream house, but if there's anything small that you can do to make it more supportive, or parts of the house that you do have some autonomy in, or ways to lighten up the energy of the house, it's very, very important. It's very, very important. Even if it's like a tiny corner within a room, where you can have your sanctuary, if you don't have a lot of options, very, very important. I say this story, um, from time to time, but growing up, when you're younger, when you're living with your family, you don't always have like a choice. And sometimes when you're older and you're living with your family, you don't have a lot of choices because of certain things going on. So when I was when let's say when I didn't have as many choices of how to redecorate or put things, I just picked a corner of a room that was the quietest that I could make my own. And I devoted that corner of the room to like my spiritual practice, my meditation. So I put energy into that space of the house because I knew that in my house I needed to feel a certain way. In my house, even though at that time I didn't have complete decisions over everything, that I could still use my house and that space as a place to balance, restore, and feel like I was in my power. Okay. So find places within your house, or find objects that you can put up in your house to activate your power, to make you feel like, okay, it feels good being in here. It feels good that this is situated like that. I feel like I'm supported by this. And it could be small things that no one would ever even think about, but for you, it does it. So it, I would say very, very important to change and utilize what you can to make your dream home truly your dream home on additional levels, and make your dream home up to date with what your needs are. Um, there's that. And with the 4, it's like take classes. When you're taking classes, even online, you're meeting people, you're meeting like-minded people. It allows you to change your mindset. It allows you to look at things with a different perspective when you are in a shared space. So get yourself out into learning a new skill, even if it's on Zoom. There's, like I said, there's so many free resources. It's really, really good for making sure that your mind is in a different place if you can't additionally change other things. And okay, you've done that, right on. Good. Continue to do that. Continue to do that, and you'll get more answers and the right step forward for yourself. Where when we build up our energy so much, even if people are contesting us, when we build our energy up so much and we're like, this is what I want, this is what's good for me, what happens, since it's so strong, that vibration with our choices and who we are becoming or who we've become, the people around us who are difficult actually will back down in certain ways. The people that are difficult will actually intuitively make space for what they're doing because their vibration is not as strong. Does that make sense? Their anger might be as strong, or their stubbornness might be somewhat strong. But when you become who you are and you're just building and building, and this is who I am, they can't contest that. They make space for it because the strongest vibration is the one that influences all the rest. And so people sometimes think that's just an emotional thing or that's a presence thing, and it's not. It's anything that you do with a force. It needs to be. It actually transmutes spaces and people if you create and cultivate certain lights, attitudes, and energy in yourself. I've seen people do it from many different backgrounds and many different circumstances and many different cases, when they've built up a belief system to protect themselves, an action, um, a way of life. It can't be contested, and they build up so strongly. Then they know how to get out of those situations from that too as well. So keep going. You will find the way. If you know, when we move, the path opens. If the path is not initially there, the path opens. What you're doing right now will create its own path. I promise you. Keep going. Right? Good. Feeling good about that, because a truth is known. Keep holding on to that truth. I'm sending you love with that situation. My thoughts are with you. And I'm going to pick one more card. Just a quick one. Let's see. One for Courtney. We'll pick 2 quick cards. One for Courtney, one for Meditation Meg. Meditation Meg and Courtney. Okay. So for Meditation Meg, I got the Let It Be Known card. So sometimes I use the nice cards, and other times, I mean, these are nice too, but I use my own, and they look so they look so authentically inspired and creative. They're from the heart. So you got the Let It Be Known card, and that's about making sure that your ideas are out, that they're not stuck in the journal, that they're not stuck with conversations with friends. Or is this a good idea? What do you think about that? It's like, no, proclaim it, sign the documents, put it out there, like just make it happen. And from it happening, like you're going to understand what it means to you in a far greater way than just kind of putting some thoughts out there with friends or rattling around those thoughts within your head. Let it be known you have a dream, make it happen. Look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm going for this. Let's see what happens. And you will tweak as needed, and you will come into that mastery even faster. Okay. Let it be known. For Courtney, I got the compassion and feeler card. And so this is about making sure you're balancing your self-care as well as that you're heightening your emotional capacities. It's about making sure that you're honoring all feelings, the good and the bad, and that when you see people going through bad feelings and when you feel yourself going through, let's say, anger, or despair, or confusion, go, great. These are these are messages from the universe just the same way. But in order to do that and work with that, you have to have self-care first. So stepping into a deeper level of compassion and making space for those emotions to talk with you, because those are psychic messages when it comes to other people and yourself of what your needs really are. But yep, you need all that love and self-care. Okay. Absolutely, Meg. Absolutely, Courtney. Absolutely. For everyone who didn't get read, I will be back next week doing readings every week. We have the reading show, so come on by. And then we're going to be having Debbie Romero on the 30th, and we're going to be doing readings together and diving into what she has going on. So a lot of reading opportunities with psychic and mediumship and numerology. We're going to have fun. And then the numerology hour as well, where we get to talk about numerology and do it. So from my heart to yours, I'm wishing everybody love, luck, light. And remember, please don't forget to live. Take care and see you on Wednesday. Bye, everyone.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.